So, thank you, Jochen. It's a very challenging introduction that I'm in between the session and the coffee break. So I'm preventing you from coffee, try to make it very short. It has been mentioned already that stakeholder involvement and associated transparency requirements are a particular feature and characteristic of the GRACE project. That is the rationale why I'm explaining also for each of the work streams what we have been doing in terms of stakeholder involvement. To start with, actually, these are the overall aims of stakeholder engagement in GRACE. It's essentially to inform and fine-tune the research process and to enhance the relevance of the project results from a broader societal perspective. One important aspect to keep in mind is what kind of stakeholders did we target. We mainly were targeting the competent authorities, industry, business, agriculture, the civil society organizations, and researchers. So we applying a very broad approach, targeting a broad range of stakeholders, and that obviously includes also professional users, namely risk assessors and risk managers, those who are dealing with this type of approaches and data. We were applying an open consultation approach and were not being selective in terms of stakeholder. So everyone who was interested could attend and engage with us. Here you can see the key steps in the GRACE project where stakeholders have been involved. Essentially, this is the planning stage where we are involving stakeholders, and here at the results of interpretations and results and then conclusions, we're involving them again. And that actually in all of the GRACE work streams. In implementing that objectives, actually we were conducting for feeding studies and alternative studies, we are conducting 3 workshops, a total of 4 written consultations via email, and we will also establishing a journal discussion forum which is still existing and will continue to exist after the project has come to an end. So important here to highlight this written consultation. So typically a workshop was organized jointly together with the written consultation steps so that stakeholders who could not come along and participate in the workshop can still engage by providing written comments. And with the written comments received, we were dealing with them in a way that we actually, for each of the comments received or each of the questions received, we were developing a response and these responses are being documented in the detailed consultation reports that you can see on our website. So this gives you an impression about the workflow in stakeholder engagement. This is the planning stage consultation that we have been conducting. On the right-hand side, you will see also the respondents rate, so how many actually stakeholders were able to engage, and how many written comments we did receive in the course of the written consultation steps. As you can see here, actually, in the planning stage, even at that stage, in the planning phase, we did receive a lot of written comments here, to which we were discussing and responding to, as I will show an example in a minute. The same pattern, a similar pattern occurs in the result stage consultations. We had 2 large workshops with a broad invitation, actually, and we also received quite a large number of written comments, which we were then actually responding to. In terms of stakeholder participation, compared to the stakeholder that we have been targeting, and as you can see in this particular graph, actually we somehow managed to engage all major parts, all major stakeholders in the course of the various consultations. Here you can see the competent authorities in orange, the researchers in blue, the industry in yellow, and the civil society organizations, including also the NGO in gray. And as you can see, across the various consultation steps, we somehow managed to engage all of them, although in various proportions. So the typical input-output scheme for our consultation actually was that we were providing drafts, draft documents, outlining either plans or results and interpretations, and partly also our draft slides for the workshops, making them available to stakeholders before the consultation, and then using the stakeholder documents to reconsider and revise these documents. Here in this case, at the planning stage, we were essentially revising the study plans, and everything was then depicted in these workshop reports. A similar picture applies to the result stage, where we had draft documents and also making available raw data at the stage of stakeholder consultations and preliminary conclusions and recommendations, and then we're essentially revising these documents and are based on the comments that we're receiving. Actually, the stakeholder involvement and stakeholder comments has already been mentioned frequently by the previous speakers, so it's almost not necessary to provide a few examples, just kind of further illustrate the way we have been handling the issues. If you go to the GRACE website and look into our stakeholder consultation reports, you will find tables like this, actually with written comments that we did receive from stakeholders, and each written comment has a response from the GRACE team, and also an indication whether and how this comment has been adopted in the study plan. You don't need to read out that, just to illustrate that. You can do it by yourself by going on the GRACE website. You will find, if you have participated in previous stakeholder consultations, you will find your written comments there, and you will find a response by the GRACE project. And this this also from another consultation with a more simplified scheme showing whether a comment has been adopted or not in the study plan, but essentially following the same pattern that you have the stakeholder, the written comment, and actually the response by the GRACE team. Just to give you an example, what is actually what we did, and this was a huge task, I have to say, for all GRACE team members in responding to these stakeholder comments. For example, in the written comments about the 90-day studies only, we received 146 individual comments or questions. So it's already quite a load of comments and questions. 63 of which has been at least partially adopted or explained in the study plan. So it has already been mentioned that stakeholder comments did shape the process of the GRACE research. And here a few examples for comments that we have been considering in the study plans. For example, there was a huge discussion about the number of animals to be used. I cannot actually really show you the original questions and comments because they would require several slides actually. Just to summarize that, actually based on that discussion, that many comments received from stakeholders, we eventually then agreed on 16 animals, to use 16 animals instead of 10 or 12. Another issue was actually that we also extended the analysis of the diets, actually, as can be seen here. Based on stakeholder comments, we included anti-nutrients and also, for example, vitamin D in the analysis. Examples for comments we have not been considering, at least not in the study plans, for example, were here comments that actually, like this one, that were actually asking us for more replicates in growing actually the maize that could not be adopted actually because actually we have limited, for obvious reason, this is an FP7 research project. We have limited resources actually and cannot extend our budget beyond what we have agreed with the European Commission. Partly also for scientific constraints, for example, as has already been mentioned, there were a number of comments suggesting higher doses and different dose ranges as we eventually then we were using, and we had very good scientific reasons for not adopting that. Yes, and also partly also we have been not adopting some of the comments because they have been just explained elsewhere. So that's actually all I wanted to say at that point. One important aspect remains to be done. So these huge tasks that has been done actually needs a particular acknowledgement. It's not only about, and not only to the core team and all GRACE, virtually all GRACE team members that were involved in the course of that task, but also to our stakeholder representatives. So in the course of that feeding trials, we involved more than 105 individual stakeholder representatives, and I have to say we are extremely grateful for the constructive discussions we had and for the instructive comments that we received. Thank you very much.